What does it mean to be a man? It is obvious it is when you born a specific sex, you are a male or a female. If you are a male, then you are a man. Okay, that's reasonable, but what does it mean in situations when someone says to you that you should be a man if you are already a male? Okay, that one is not that easy in my definition. If you are a man, then the manly behavior should be what men do. You can't behave womanly or because by definition you are a man. Okay, but what does people think when they say manly behavior or he is a man or any phrases like that? I don't know, maybe they are confused. Let me ask the internet about this. So, I was wrong. To be a man doesn't mean just to be a man. I mean, it means the behavior of a man, which isn't real man. We don't want to confuse people here. You should be an imaginary man who acts a certain way, which represents the average male behavior. Aha. So what? What? You tell some people judge other people how they should behave even if they don't behave that way either? Huh? Exactly. Nah, it can't be real. This is stupid. What if someone says he's a man if she is a woman? Okay, that is weird. What could they possibly mean by that? At this point, we certainly can see the difference between being a man and to be a man. In one sentence, it is the biological male, which means you born this way. In another sentence, it means you should behave a certain way. So, it is a behavior thing. You are a man because you behave a certain ways. It is logical then to call yourself a man even if you are female because that behavior suits you the best. I'm an angry man now. Some women want to be a man now. It is outrageous. They took our jobs and now they want to take our identity now. What next? They will exclude men from society? Fuck this. This is weird. We should reduce to women rights because they will do whatever. The society will be ruined. Okay, this conversation in my head paints the weird picture about how people think radically different things. Okay, let's start with the easiest one. You are a man, you born this way. You are a man by definition, you can say he was a man who robbed the bank. By meaning you saw a male individual who robbed the bank. This is kind of easy way to define things. You don't say men should behave certain ways or something like that. This is the easiest to define and you will use the biological man as in your arguments. So, you are a bit confused when you see someone transsexual who claims that he or she is a man. To understand that behavior, you have to create different concepts about men. Some people define this word not only as the male human, but the behavior as the male sex. So you take an average of the male behavior, and that is what a man is. So, you will have two separate definitions meaning the same word, and you can think about it separately and as a whole. But if you think it as a whole, you will exclude people who can't define themselves as the average male, even if they are male by sex. So you say some people should change their sex to match their identity. I mean, personality, or they should act a certain way even if it's painful for them. Some people say that mankind is dying or masculinity of the world is dying. There are no more gentlemen. Where could that judgment came from? Well, if you create a behavior concept about man, you can create it a lot of ways. You can take the role model of a man. You are a man if you behave a certain desirable way. That sounds a lot of fun. If you use it as a goal, I will behave this way in certain situations. This makes a value judgment of every decisions. This makes a value judgment of every situations you are in, and asks the question, what would a man do? It is not hard to see why does this create problems. What if you can't behave a certain way? Your ideal man role model will judge your decisions. You feel judged in the situation by yourself. Your self-esteem will suffer. It is in one way good because it will kind of force you with suffering in the right direction. But in other ways, if your self-esteem is too low or low enough, humans tend to behave in worse ways. It is the same as you say someone you are a criminal. They will tend to identify as a criminal and act like one too. So in that way, you will feel that the man is in danger. The masculinity is dying because you are feeling it. Or you will see others not doing the right thing. To make things worse, these definitions what men should act like or look like is differ a lot of person to person. So, there will be a lot of separate definitions about it. There will be a biological man, an average behavior man, a desirable role model man, and you will feel the expectations of other role model men. So, you will define a man in at least 4 ways all at once. So, if you think this is the same thing 4 times, then you weren't paying any attention. So, solve this issue of the dying masculinity. You have several ways to achieve that. The first step is not optional. You have to accept that these definitions are not the same. That step is obvious. The first step is always to define there is a problem and identify why is that a problem for us. The next step will be differ person to person. You can be at the state that this whole video is a waste of time and there is no behavior man and only the male sex and job done. That is fine. You didn't create this problem, you have no problem with your worldview and you should not create one. Okay, now the harder solution will come. You can state that the biological man, what you are, not manly enough, because you are not similar to the average male you defined yourself. The solution to this, you should act as the average male you defined and problem is solved. If you can't act the way you should define why should you act as such, and this will give you an answer to should or should not. If you come to conclusion that you should act this way, that probably created the role model man as a product. Okay, now the harder solution will come. So, your role model man isn't the same as the average male and or the individual yourself. This can create frustration in several reasons. You will feel that others are wrong to behave a certain way, and you are wrong that you behave a certain way. That is far from ideal. This is harder problem to solve. You already have your goals defined. This doesn't mean you can't change them. These have several solutions. First of the problems of others. You find that problem irritating that you want to do something about it. You can teach others how to behave and be a role model yourself. If you are the best version who you can be and you teach others how to behave, you have done your part and you should feel accomplished. This behavior will not solve the feeling that the masculinity is dying, but you can direct that emotion into teaching and being a good role model, and you can feel accomplished. I don't state that this solution doesn't work, but if you don't want to feel the masculinity is dying part, then this solution is not for you. You can accept that you can't change others' behavior as much as you want. You can state your values that everyone should live by, but it isn't universal law. Others can find your rules surreal or not relevant, or hard to live by, and so on. So you can accept that some things you can change, and others' behavior is one of them. This will solve the problem of dying masculinity, and if you act as you defined the ideal behavior, then every part of the problem is solved. If you can't reach the role model stage of your life, then you can accept that with your abilities, it is impossible to achieve, and define your role model as yourself. So, the definitions should be closer at least. The risk of your self esteem falling is higher if you and your ideal role model is far apart. So, I would advise in the direction of more matching model to your personality. Whew. Give me a break. This is already a metric ton of information right there. So, all solutions are the same and it is super any solution you choose. Well, I didn't talk about one situation where your ideal behavior is matching, but the social ideal doesn't. So, you live by the rules you set yourself, and you are the best version of yourself. And you could take your pride in it, and maybe you want to teach the world how to live. But some people will state that your ideal behavior is evil. It is impossible. Who would do such a thing? The answer is obvious. I won't tell you because I already figured it out. This will create two sides of a coin and they will fight. So, what is the solution in that regard? You are deprived of your human rights to teach others how they should live their lives. That is impossible. So, yeah, if you choose that route, that you would teach your ideal role model to the world, you are begging for hate. You are the reason evil exists. You want others live by your rules and doesn't want other rules to be. So, who could have guessed that two sides of the coin could think the same way? I wonder, that is news to anyone, but yes, if you followed my thinking, this will create a bigger problem for everyone. There will be people who will judge you as you are not behaving the way the ideal should behave. So, maybe this solution is bad for several reasons. If you teach others how to behave in ways only your values are the good one, then you are creating several problems. You are endangering others' identity, and you are creating the same problems for society that you had. Did it solve the problem? If your feelings are not fulfilled and you get a false sense of accomplishment from unknowingly destroying someone else's identity, uh, this problem wouldn't even exist if we stayed at the first step of the whole humanity. There are only biological man or female and no behavior ones, but as soon as someone says it's real, it becomes real. The countries are not a real thing until someone states that it is real for them. So, this is my imaginary solution to my imaginary problems. You should accept the state you are in and change if you want to change. But you should have no expectations of others, what others are doing. They are out of your control. At least women doesn't have this set of expectations. Should I tell you why it is important to define a man in society? Fine. It is easy if you have a need for protection and safety. How would you achieve that? It is easy to see what the options are. You accept that you are alone. That sounds lonely. Oh well. You can find or create a community. Therefore, you have to set some rules. How to function well. And these rules can be set by physical strength, wisdom, or some kind of philosophy. If you have tasks like hunting or anything like that, you have to choose the stronger individuals for the job. That would be mainly the men by sex. So, there you go. You already made your role as of man in society. Women are better in communication, I would argue with that, but that could make it more logical to set as the caretaker of the family. Nowadays, it is more questioned mainly because today you don't have to hunt or anything that takes too much power. This creates more equal field in different sexes. So you don't really need the connection between sex and role anymore. So why would you do it anyway? The same reasons. The society is too big to have only one ideology so every person in it will have different ideologies. And they will have to adapt to each other, set their own rules, and so on. So, if you want some rules how to live your life, what will make sense, and so on, so you will set some rules for yourself, what kind of person you are, or what you like to be, and so on. Treat others as you like to be treated. In this, if you set some kind of rule because you value yourself as a man, then this will create the feeling of expectations to others. So, that's it. It is all because of religion. Have you been listening at all? Trans people, mostly non religious people, and they choose to live by this system. So, this is human behavior. This role, what I was talking about, was gender all along. So, you have women, men, neither, and both. Easy as that. Why is everyone surprised when they hear more genders than sexes? If someone accepts your rules, how men should be, and its opinion differs, why can't it say it is neither? Or women, or whatever? Some people are just too dumb to understand it, and it is because they can't change their ideologies based on the real world what we are live in.